Good morning, and today's going to be 7-6 of clubs. We are in the cutoff. We get a limper, I isolate, and then we get a caller. That same limper calls. So this player is playing 17-2 over 42 hands. Doesn't seem to be overly aggressive, doesn't seem to be overly loose. Looks like he's probably going to be playing a lot of hands that I would have opened for a raise first in. So you can see he's got 30% mid position, 20 in the cutoff. So 3 out of 10, 1 out of 5, 0 out of 5. These are all just like small sample sizes, but we do have 2 out of 17 where he is limped first in. So I'm sure there's going to be some notes here. I've got limp and called. I didn't look at that, so I'm not sure what he's going to have. But when we build up his range, I'm looking at something like this. I would assume he would raise, like open raise like jacks plus ace queen, maybe like those two as well. It just seems to be a little bit more standard to raise first in with those hands, and that leaves some weaker hands in his just limping range. Now, this range may actually be a little tight. I think a lot of players would open it up a bit, unless you're really passive, in which case, yeah, that's probably just all you're going to be raising, and you might not even raise all of these. But I'm going to give him the midweek pocket pairs, connectors, the weaker broadways, suited aces, and so forth. When we look at my range, at least the cutoff ISO to cutoff isolation raises, we're looking at something like this. Of course, always isolate. We should be way ahead of our opponent. The optional just kind of depends on how wide is our opponent. In this case, I went ahead and raised. I played 16%, so I'm going to guess that I was getting some decent cards. I'm going to go with the image. We are going to be kind of towards the bottom of villain's range. I'm going to bank on position to try to take some of these hands down. To look at the fact that he appears to be passive. So when he does play, if he comes in for a raise at any point in the hand, I'm probably going to have to fold it. All right, so we see a flop of Jack 9-9. I'm going to say that's actually not too bad for our range. I think when we look at all of our hands, of course, a 9 is possible. We don't have a huge number of combos, but we've got overpairs. We've got your gut shots, your gut shot straight draws. You've got backdoor flush draws, and so forth. So I fully expect villain to check, which leaves us deciding what do we do. Let's break it down to value versus value plus. So if we just did 3 of a kind plus, we're looking at 6%. If we add open ender and cut shot, that gives us 12%. So that would be a suitable breakdown to cbet 19%. We don't really know what villain's overall fold cbet stat is, how he responds. I think on this board, with having 2 9s, there's fewer 9x options out there. You do have straight and gut shot draws. If we bet here, if he calls any pocket pair plus your open ender and gut shots, he's calling 70%, which means we're getting 30%. If he doesn't call his gut shots, then he's down to under 60%, which means he's going to be folding a little over 40%. That's if he calls all of these under pairs, and maybe he doesn't. Maybe he calls once and then folds. I think when we think about the turn cards, I think ace, king, queen are all going to be pretty good. I think 10's going to be pretty good for our range. I think 8 is going to be okay. 7, 6, anything 7 or lower is going to be less so. So we've got 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. That doesn't really change the hand. In certain situations, I think changing the hand, that's the key. I don't think those low cards change the hand at all, whereas the high cards have the potential to change the hand. They add additional draws. They add additional options that kind of fit my high range. So because of that, I think we're looking at maybe betting over pair plus. and maybe even top pair. And if we do that, then we are really opening it up to like two card backdoor flush draws. So maybe like 60% c-bet, something like that. So we're gonna make that c-bet. I bet 4. I think that's probably about right. Under half pot, maybe about a third pot or so. That's probably about right. I think we would do that sizing at like 10 queen, probably the jack, definitely like your quad nines or pocket jacks. I don't think we would always bet quads or pocket jacks though. So villain calls. We're gonna say he calls with all of those. I'm not gonna give him the gut shot. I'm gonna say open ender and then any pair. Turns to jack. That is probably not a good card. So now we're relying on pocket pairs, and actually it could be because we do have the over pairs. We have queens, kings, and aces. We have tens. Villain, of course, has all the unders. It's just a question of, is he going to believe us at this point? If I c-bet again, which I think it could, is he going to fold? So we're looking at this point, if I bet, 46% is full house. How come? Did we lose some of his underpairs? And we got pocket pair below the board. So 2s, 3s, 4s. All right, so where did they go? Oh, no made hand. Ah, yes, because they're counterfeited. Okay, yeah, so full house. Does he call with an open ender? That's a question. So I do think that's actually could be a decent hand. I mean, if he has a jack or 9, so be it. But I think this is a decent hand to continue betting, and possibly betting everything now. So we're betting our ace high. We're betting all of our draws or overcards. Maybe even our no made hands here, just to attack it. And I think that is completely reasonable. I bet 8, which is less than half. We could probably go down to like 7, bet a little bit smaller. I think it's consistent with the smaller bet size is saying, hey, I'm trying to get you to call, and see what you do. So I do think that bet's okay for now, based on the ranges and based on what I think he might be playing. But again, he's got 42 hands. It's going to be hard. So once he calls, I'm done with the hand. I know I'm beat. I know at this point he's probably has a jack or a 9. If he has an overpair, then we misread his hand. So he calls. I'm done with it. Ace of Hearts comes out. Yep, I'm done with it. At least with my hand. We still have the aces. So on this board now, we're looking at, I would be probably betting the strong full houses. I don't think I would be betting the weak full houses. I think Villain has a full house. So at this point, I'm just hoping he didn't have like ace 10, ace jack, ace 9. So I think we're gonna bet those for value, and clearly we don't. We've got a bunch of junk, so we'll check behind and take our loss. I don't even think. I think even if I bet again, he's not gonna fold his full house hands. He's not folding those. I don't see people folding them. So a check behind. He shows queen 9, which he had it. So. And I included queen 9, so it is one of those hands that I expected him to call. And did he have that on here? Yep, limpa called to raise queen 9. So glad I didn't look at it. So run out was okay, was not that great, but hey, we kind of set up a plan. I think we discussed the hands. What cards can come. I think the flop c-bet was probably 50-50 on what we could do. And if we look at the breakdown of what GTO, a lot of times they'll have like 6-7 maybe as a bet. But some combos would be a check. This is probably the one that would lead to a check because we don't have backdoor flush draws. So if we were going to check the flop, this is definitely a hand where we could have checked. But we went the aggressive route and said, you know what, we're going to be betting here. We're going to be betting basically everything just to see what Villain's going to do, because I think Villain has a overall generally weak range. I think ace X's, all of those ace X's, I think are just going to fold. Because there's no flush draw on the board. They're backdoors, but I think they're just all going to fold. I do think these under pairs pose problems for him. He's going to fold. He either folds him or calls him, and if he calls him, he's going to fold him on the turn to an additional bet. So I kind of look at what cards on the turn are going to come and help me. And I think the only ones that don't really change much are those low cards. So since they don't change the board much, we're relying on what I'm representing on the flop, which we could still bet and represent our overs, our over pairs or jack or whatever, and I would probably still double barrel, but it is what it is. Not sure what GTO would say on this, but I think I'm okay with how I played it with being aggressive. And he had a hand that he had a pair. So, all right, hopefully you enjoy this. If you do, look tomorrow for another one.